Everybody's in from the waiting room, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order on February 21st at 6:01. And we'll open right up to public comment. And Toby.
Thank you. Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. Taking up where I left off at the end of your budget meeting a week ago, and my remarks about the and questions about the special ed expenses. And Carl Engel's remarked that my questions were inappropriate, that people should not be asking such questions. He could not be more wrong and out of order in those remarks. I didn't ask for any of the particulars of any given students. Any fool would know that you have no right to ask such questions. I would doubt that your board would be privy to such information. The only people who would be the school committee and the superintendent, and if it came to that, town council. But to ask for the figures is altogether fair, and it's very much important because last year it was that 34% of the school's budget went to special ed. And if what the new superintendent said is true, I assume it is, that the outplacement schools that the kids more in need of services are sent to are going to go up 14% with the state's blessing, that percent will go up. So given that the school's budget, whatever we give them, is a finite figure, the special ed expenses devour more and more of it every year, and it's a losing proposition. This isn't to say that the special ed expenses are entirely justified or a fantastic boondoggle or anything you like in between. It's just that it's an unfunded mandate and it's wrong. And it is the thing that throws the school's budget totally out of whack. And last year, when it was a third of approximately of the school's budget, and the school's budget half of the town's budget, less the enterprise funds, you figure that that's 1/6 of all of the tax dollars going into that alone. And although it's not the fault of the superintendent or the school committee in any way, it is the fault of the school committee if they're not going to go to bat for our interests. And what they owe us, the town meeting, the voters, is a resolution to the honorables, Tar and Ferranti and the governor, calling on them to pick up all of the expenses, not some portion of them, all of them. The town is constrained by Proposition 2.5, and that's entirely appropriate. I'd venture that most people feel that that's a good thing. The state is not so constrained. And since they dreamt this up, they should pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing Laura. Hold on, you're not unmuted yet. There you go.
There we go. Hi, Laura Evans, 77 High Street. I just had 3 quick questions, or I was wondering when the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust is going to be set up and populated. Really eager to see that off the ground. And 2, I wondered if and when the personnel board that is by statute supposed to be in place for folks to appeal to for, staff by volunteers would be set up again, or if you folks have other plans. And lastly, I wanted to thank the Town Green group for setting up these info sessions about Long Beach and what's happening to our beaches. I went to the one yesterday at high tide at 11 o'clock at Long Beach, and it was really informative. And they're giving another session by scientists tomorrow night at 6:30. And I thought of that in context of the Long Beach folks coming to the select board meetings and asking about, the leases are up this year and what's going to happen. And I think getting educated by people who really understand what's happening with the rising of the oceans is very informative. And I thought these sessions were very good. And I wondered when we're going to hear from the select board again about what's happening with the leases at Long Beach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. So I can't answer all those questions, but for the answers I do have, the affordable housing, we're waiting for applicants to apply. And for the town green, I agree with you. I do wish they would have involved the selectmen in some way and invited us as well. I know Denise was able to get an invite to us, but I've had no correspondence from the actual town green themselves. And those are all I can answer right now. And next we have Chip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm here tonight to,
I have your name and address for the record, please.
oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Chip Tarbo, 24 Old County Road, Rockport, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight to follow up on a comment that was made by the town administrator after my comments last week, 2 weeks ago, in regards to the Long Beach seawall, where he said he was not aware of the wall being an imminent failure or major crisis, that he was aware that there were a few problems, but that the term imminent was a tough term to use. Well, I certainly would agree with him, but we didn't come up with that term. So I'd like to just quickly share with you where that came from. And it kind of befuddles me a bit, if you may, Mr. Chair, that he was unaware of that term, because everything I'm going to tell you tonight, he's had copies of and has also been part of the studies and the groups that have created these things. So a little bit of history. On October 2009, the Mass Coast Infrastructure Inventory and Assessment Program created a study to establish a 20-year infrastructure assessment and inventory report and prioritize the most critical repairs needed of coastal shorelines in Massachusetts. In their assessment at year 7, items expected then in 2006 dollars would cost $10,922,000 included the Long Beach seawall as a number 9 on part of their priorities. It also included White's Wharf, Old Granite Pier on year 7. Year 10 was Pigeon Cove. Year 17 was Old Granite Pier, Pigeon Cove, T Wharf, and the Old Garden Beach. Moving forward, on December 31st, 2013, there was a Long Beach facts and considerations presented to the selectmen. This was kind of accumulation for them to understand the issues at Long Beach for the lease in 2013. But I more specifically just want to really qualify and talk about the seawall, because I don't want to muddy it with everything else. So then there was a sediment transport study final report done by Applied Coastal Research and Engineer dated October 24th, 2014. And this is the most important study. And it indicated that without improvements and with continued beach erosion, a significant coastal storm could cause a catastrophic failure of the seawall, resulting in widespread damage to the seawall and backshore areas and infrastructure. And I quote that report, page 42, paragraph 2. Utilizing a shoreline recession rate of 0.9 feet per figure 4-1 indicates that within approximately 22 to 33 years, major portions of the seawall will likely experience catastrophic failure, with the 1931-32 section likely the first to fall. It also appears that the northern portion of the seawall adjacent to Saratoga Creek, and here it comes, is already in jeopardy of imminent failure. That's a report not created by anybody at Long Beach. It's an engineering report that came out. It then continues on in paragraph 4. Failure of the seawall will require that the town perform emergency shore protection measures if the dwellings protected by the existing seawall are to remain intact. If failure of the seawall occurs during the initial stages of a significant coastal storm, it may not be possible to take action to save all dwellings. In this case, substantial overtopping and erosion of barrier beach sediments will occur, likely damage or destroy dwellings prior to any emergency action being taken. This type of unplanned catastrophic seawall failure also could jeopardize other town infrastructures, such as the sewer line running the length of Long Beach. So that's a quote out of the 2014, October 24th, 2014 study. That's where the term imminent failure has come about. Not our term, the engineer's term. And again, as you heard, it also talks about catastrophic failure.
Alrighty.
Then we continue.
Can I have you finish up in the second public comment? We're just kind of getting up on time. I do 5 minutes. I'm gonna have Jay Zeppola. I'm assuming it's Z, but we'll see.
Mr. Chair, just going to chime in if I could before the
Okay.
next person. I always appreciate the history reminder, the historical reminder on some of the Long Beach stuff. The reports from 9 years ago, I'm aware of those. My comment was in the very specific case to a comment relating to that the wall is in imminent failure.
Thank
I
you.
would not say, based on where we are with DPW, that there is, as far as I'm aware, it is not in imminent failure. Yes, there are problems. No one's questioning, and I never questioned where some of the terminology and issues came up with. Talking about very specifically, I responded to a specific question and a specific comment that was raised. But always good to have the history reminder.
All right. Jay Zeppola.
Yeah. Z Sepola, you hear me, Ross?
Yep. You're on.
All right. I have one simple question and then one simple request. The simple question is, I wondered if the hearing was closed on the blue bag rates that you attended half an hour or so ago.
They forwarded, what's the word I'm looking for?
They continued it.
They continued it to the 28th.
All right, that's excellent. That was a great suggestion by former select person Battistelli, and lots of hearings are continued, and that was a great way to take care of a potentially problematical situation. The other thing I'd like to say is that at the last planning board meeting, it seems there was a great deal of confusion about the tool company in the minds of the current planning board members, insofar as the fact that they're being told, or they told the town at the meeting, that they were told that it's necessarily a marine development that has to take place down there. They referenced the designated port area regulations that Gloucester has, and certain other commercial ports, large ports in Massachusetts. Ones that come to mind are Fall River, New Bedford, Chelsea, Salem, and Gloucester. DPA has nothing to do with Rockport. It has to do with preservation of large marine, commercial, industrial interests, so that they can't be necessarily taken over by recreational boating, which could be the case in Rockport. So in the course of the planning board meeting, Jason Shaw, the chairperson, virtually pleaded that he hoped that more people would come to hearings and not necessarily town meetings, so that they could, give their opinions to the planning board or whatever, aside from the congested time of town meeting. And I referenced the fact that people have gone to town hearings, and in fact, the three most popular town hearings were concerning the tool company or the use of the harbors. Two of those took place in conference room A. when DEP came down to provide their hearings on the licensing and the permits. And if you recall, some of our long-term selectmen may recall that their crowds were such that they had to go out into the back hall near the DPW office to accommodate everybody. The other one was the Granite Pier extension, where they had originally provided for it at the police station conference room. There were so many people that came to that, they had to put it in the high school cafeteria. So what I said to the planning board chairman was that when hearings are conducted with the intent of listening to people, people do go. And there's no problem getting people to attend hearings. That's all I'd like to say for tonight. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you. Carol?
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Where am I? I'm sorry. I'm just forwarding an email to you from Town Green. I'm very disappointed that they did not contact the selectmen. I did request them to do it. And I'm going to forward you the webinar notice that's tomorrow night at 6:30. The Town Green is going to have experts on talking about Long Beach and the dangers of sea rise and what could possibly be done. And I'm just hoping that some of the selectmen will be able to get on to that meeting. It's at 6:30. And I just sent them the notice to an old selectman email address. So I'm going to resend it again to your, I don't know how I end up with 2 selectmen email addresses. So I'm going to forward that. And about the Long Beach seawall, you know, that other person who was talking about it, as far as I know, the DPW amended that wall by adding in a whole lot of boulders that are supposed to shore up the wall for 10 years or something like that. But things have been done to, you know, help keep the seawall safe. Unfortunately, and the people at Long Beach aren't going to like this, but as far as I know, the DPW, not the DPW, the EPA is going to require, if you ever have redo that wall, which I don't know who's going to ever pay for it, that you would have to raise it 4 inches, and then they would all lose their view. But, you know, that's what happens when you allowed houses to be 2.5 stories high, which I don't understand why those little cottages were ever allowed to do that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And then next is Steve.
Yes, I don't know what happened to my video. It says it was blocked by the administrator.
No one touched your video, Steve.
Okay. Well, I'll just talk then. So I don't know what happened on this end. First, I preface my comments tonight that I appreciate that the 5 select board members are volunteers. And to my knowledge, none of them are attorneys either. At the last Zoom board meeting, Select Board Member Wilkinson asked to speak first during public comment. She said that a resident had asked her why the board does not respond or engage in public comment during the public comment period. Some of the comments she offered about the open meeting law were accurate, but she inferred that the open meeting law requires that the select board follow a published meeting agenda, which is true, but that this was why the select board cannot engage or discuss with residents at public comment because of this needing to follow the agenda. In fact, the open meeting law provides public bodies with great flexibility when unanticipated topics arise. If an unanticipated topic not on the agenda arises during the meeting, the public body, in this case the select board, may discuss the matter and may even take a vote on the matter. The open meeting law does not contain restrictions as to when the matter arose or to the degree that it could be discussed. Now, interestingly, Select Board Member Wilkinson publicly asked the town administrator to correct her if she was wrong with what she had said. The town administrator neither confirmed or corrected the misleading comment. Instead, the town administrator remained silent. Everybody's human, everybody makes mistakes. So let's assume for a minute that there was no intentional misleading on the part of the select board member and that the silence of the town administrator was just because he didn't know the answer to be able to confirm or correct the mistake. Let's just assume that. But whether intentional or unintentional, there are implications and consequences. First, any resident that was participating on the call was led to believe that the open meeting law prohibits the select board from discussing non-agenda items during public comment. Any resident who later watches that tape will also be misled. Second, any one of the board members, especially the most recently elected board members, Chairman Brackett and Board Member Lilja, could be misled to believe that they must refrain from discussion during public comment because of the open meeting law. And third, how should the public interpret the town administrator remaining silent and not correcting the interpretation? Maybe he was reluctant to publicly correct a 16-year veteran on the committee. Only the TA knows why he remained silent. However, if the TA or possibly even another board of selectmen knew that select person Wilkinson had erred and still remained silent, this serves to assist in misleading the public. I would hope that a trained and knowledgeable town administrator or another board member does not need an invitation to speak up with transparency and truth to get the facts in this case. In this case, get the law right. The entire select board should expect this from a town administrator to jump in and correct someone if they're misspoke. So for everyone on Zoom tonight or watching later, the conclusion here is this: the select board may absolutely respond and discuss unanticipated topics and questions raised during public comment without any restriction by the open meeting law. If the select board does not respond, either on the spot, they can reschedule the topic to a future meeting date, or they can decide not to respond at all. But if the select board decides not to follow up at all, it is because they voluntarily choose to not respond. And there is no place for the select board to hide behind the open meeting law. The open meeting law, and this is my last sentence, thank you for the extra minute, Chairman Brackett. The open meeting law is intended to reduce the secrecy and increase transparency in municipal government matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I would hope that you are a lawyer in open meeting, but just to ease everything out, it's not the TA's job to respond to comments. If you want to direct an email to Selectwoman Wilkinson, you can, as she's not in attendance tonight, and she can respond to you. And then finally, to make it easier for everyone, it's up to the chair whether or not I would want to have the discussion or not. It's not up to the board. I run the meeting, so if I don't want to have the discussion, we don't have to have the discussion. As you've seen throughout many meetings, we do engage. Other select members that are chair don't engage at all. So I choose to engage a little bit here and there. Some don't. It's up to the chair on whether how they want. It is a public comment. So usually most people like it to be just public comment. So with that, I see Barbara raising her hand, and that will be the last public comment for the first section. Hold on, Barbara, you're not unmuted. Oh, there you go.
Okay,
Go ahead. You're unmuted now.
thanks so much. I had some trouble getting on, but here I am. So Barbara Kaplan, 4 Ocean Avenue. A couple questions. How soon do you expect to staff the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust? And also, I know you're looking for an assistant town administrator. Is that the same as administrative service manager? Because that position is posted, but if not, will the assistant town administrator position be posted?
We're
not looking for an assistant town administrator position.
I thought in one of our discussions in a previous meeting, we talked about how hard it was because the town administrator had so much to do, and that was one of the reasons we couldn't do the Affordable Housing Trust, because there wasn't time. So I understood somewhere, I don't know where I got it, that you were looking for an assistant town.
The job posting that you referred to after is the job posting we've been talking about. At no point have we mentioned assistant town administrator.
So what is an administrative service manager? What is that then?
She, you can.
It's
I
what's
got it.
listed in the job posting that lays out all of the requirements and expectations of the position. It's an advanced executive assistant position,
Okay,
supervisory responsibility.
I will look up that. And I just want to repeat that on Saturday, this 25th, this coming Saturday at 12 noon in the library, we're having an info session on affordable housing. We've been passing out invitations on Facebook as well as at the dump, and people are very responsive. And so everybody's invited. And then if you could answer my first question about staffing the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust, I would like to hear that. Thank you
Yep.
so much for your
So
time.
for the Affordable Housing Trust, thank you for your comments. We are still looking for we're still waiting for all the applicants to apply. Once we hit I think we settled on 5. Once we get up to that number, then we'll start the interviewing process. Hopefully we get more than 5, so the selectmen will actually have some people to choose from, but we're still waiting on applicants to apply before we move forward. And with that, I'll move on to the consent agenda. If I have a motion, I'll just read it off real quick. It's approval of minutes, if any. 2023 license and permits approvals, part 2, and Rockport Farmers Market request modification.
I move that the board approve all non-held items on the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. And no discussion, roll call vote. Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. On to action items. First, they're both the same, but we'll take motions separately, but consider one-day alcohol licenses for Pigeon Cove Circle and Rockport Educational Foundation. And I believe we have Claire Franklin here to speak on the Pigeon Cove Circle. There you go, Claire. You're unmuted, Claire.
I'm not sure what you need me to speak on. We're having a dance on March. I don't have the date in front of me. I think it's the
We
5th.
have all the information. If
Yeah.
you want to say a few words, no big
Oh,
deal if you don't
okay.
want to.
I'm
Sorry.
on the board at the Pigeon Cove Circle. Linda Corsi usually attends these meetings, but she wasn't available tonight. I'm here if you have any questions that I can answer for you.
All right, any questions from the board for the Pigeon Cove Circle? All right, and then Jamie, not to put you on the spot too, if you have any words for the Rockport Educational Foundation, you can speak on that as well.
Thank you, sir. I am here to be put on the spot. Thank you, everyone. And most importantly, please come. It'll be all the much better if you'll come. This is the Educational Foundation for Rockport, the nonprofit that supports the public schools where there are either gaps in the budget or scholarships needed. That includes experiential programs. This is our first annual fundraiser. It is 21 plus only. There are only 2 alcohol drinks tickets and limitless non-alcohol drinks. We have the full board intended to come, and I signed as the responsible party, so there'll be no shenanigans. Wine and beer only. There are shuttle buses running from the private home where it's being held on Granite Street down to Granite Pier. So thank you also for arranging for Granite Pier or authorizing. There's food, so nobody's going getting any alcohol on an empty stomach. It'll be very good food, by the way. And I need to thank, I apologize for taking your time, but I'd like to thank our full board for their service. We have Superintendent Bronco, who is ex officio, Aaron Battistelli, Jim Goodstadt, Molly Welsky, Dr. Bill Waller, Robin Crocker, Jillian Parr, who is also hosting the event at her home, Sue Russo, and our corporate board chair is Lorraine Wessel. With that, I ask, and if you want to give $1,000, get 2 free tickets and an original invitation, from artist Jill Demery. Next year's will be a different artist with a different original invitation. So 20 years from now, you'll have quite the collection worth a lot more than any individual contribution. Please approve our liquor license for one day, May 20th, with an alternate rain date of May 21st. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. before the sun sets, and don't make us have a police detail. Please, thank you. Much appreciated.
All right, so with that, if anyone has any questions for Jamie, I'll take them.
Just a note, Mr. Chair, the police details are up to the chief of police. That's his prerogative.
I will take a motion for Pigeon Cove Circle first.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I move that the board approve a one-day alcohol license for Pigeon Cove Circle fundraiser dance on March 4th, 2023, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., subject to the approval and requirements of the police and fire chiefs and compliance with all state and local alcohol laws and regulations.
Second,
Second. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. So Claire, you're all set. You can tell everyone. And then next up, I'll take the motion for the Ed Foundation.
Yes, I move that the board approve a one-day alcohol license for the Educational Foundation for Rockport Private Concert and Silent Auction on May 20th, 2023, from 6 to 8 p.m., subject to the approval and requirements of the police and fire chiefs and compliance with all state and local alcohol laws and regulations.
Thank you. Should we put the rain date in there?
You
I'm
could
sorry?
add that, sure.
Yeah. Jamie, what was the rain date again? Can we
Oh, May 21st.
May 21st? All righty. So subject
second
to
that.
May 21st and May 20th first with a rain date of May 21st, and that was seconded. So waiting for the discussion. Seeing none, roll call vote. Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. All right, you're all set, Jamie.
Thank you all for your service. Please come.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Action item 3, we don't have anything on the opioid funding at this time. So we'll move right to 4, which is consider road race requests from UCAN and Cape Ann Trail Stewards. I don't know if any of them are here today, if they want to speak on anything. If not, we can move right into the motions.
Mr. Chair, Rich Morel is here for UCAN.
All right.
And
fine,
just trying to see if I see Carol.
I see Carol, yep. Carol, you want to
There
say
we go.
anything? Hey, Carol, you're unmuted if you want
Oh,
to.
there we go. Cape Ann Trail Stewards. This is our annual 5-mile run in Dogtown. And it's a fundraiser. Cape Ann Trail Stewards, we help maintain the trails in Cape Ann, work with the towns and different trail issues. We have hikes, just promoting the outside. And this is, we're asking to start at Summit Ave by the water tower. The race goes off at 9, be done by noon. Usually have about 60 to 70 people run. And it's always a very feel-good event.
All right, any questions for Carol? On
No.
board? No, alrighty. And then you said Rich was here. Rich Morel, you want to say anything for the other race?
You bet.
You can. Yep, go ahead, you're unmuted.
Stockholm Ave organize the UCAN races every year. This is Rick Morel, 43 Stockholm Ave. I organize the UCAN races every year. Great way to get people outside and moving and invite them to come and visit town. We organize a series of races here at Rockport. They start in early April, and then we wrap up with our holiday race in December. We've been doing these for a number of years, and they're always great fun.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, I'll take the first motion for UCAN.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion. I move that the board approve the following UCAN road races: April 2, 2023, April 30, 2023, August 6, 2023, October 15, 2023, and December 3, 2023, all subject to the approval and requirements of the Chief of Police, and that race organizers shall ensure that the routes shall be free of trash and signage upon completion of each day.
Second,
All right. And roll call vote. Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. All right, next up is the Cape Ann Stewards, Cape Ann Trail Stewards, I should say.
Yes, I move that the board approve the Cape Ann Trail Stewards Road Race on May 20th, 2023, subject to the approval and requirements of the Chief of Police, and that race organizers shall ensure that the routes shall be free of trash and signage on completion of the day.
I'll
Do I have a
second.
second? All right,
Yes.
roll call vote, Selectman Lawyer,
Aye.
Selectman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye, motion carries. Congratulations to you two, you guys are all set, and glad to see you guys getting people outside these days. It's good for everybody. All right, next on the agenda is updates. I'll turn it over to Mitch and you can go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the board is aware, we've transmitted on your behalf the operating budget to the Finance Committee. We are having the first meeting with them this Thursday evening to speak to some of the town departments, the larger departments who are moving forward. We are still awaiting our free cash number, so there is not yet a capital submission. When there is one, we will be sure it'll, of course, come back in front of this board. Every time we ask DOR, they tell us soon. I feel like now every time we ask, they might be nudging us down a little deeper in the pile, but this is the longest it's been. Where we can't recall that it's been this long in quite a while. Usually we get the number sometime in January, because we've in the time I've been here anyway, we've had capital to submit by the end of January with the old submission date. So it is what it is, where we'll be ready to go as soon as they give that to call CIPC together. An item I wanted to discuss with the board relating to project funding. So I had forwarded an email to the board relating to community project funding, federal funding from Congressman Moulton's office. And I had indicated when I sent that I would be having some internal discussions about some larger scale projects that could be an option for us. That could be some things for the board to consider for submission through this earmark process at the federal level. There's certainly no projects are guaranteed, especially when dealing with the federal government, but it would be helpful to at least, I think, have some discussion around some potential options. So I had a discussion with the DPW director and the assistant director, and a few things just for consideration this evening. No final decisions, but some things for you to think about to submit. It seems that when you look at past projects, the grants are typically for towns similar in our size, anywhere from $1 million to $2 million, generally speaking. So within those areas, a few items. Upgrade and modernization work at the wastewater treatment plant. Upgrade and modernization work at the water treatment plant. Granite pier repairs, not the extension, but repairs. For those of you who have seen it from the ocean side, there are issues at the end of it. The tip of the pier has some significant issues with it, and there are some issues in the middle. There's some problematic areas. So repairs to Granite Pier. Town office complex, hazardous materials remediation, and electrical system upgrade and energy efficiency work. We've discussed previously the issues that are limiting in this building for us to really do anything other than exactly what we're doing right now. And a climate resiliency project relating to Flat Ledge Quarry, the study and permitting and design work of a protective barrier at Flat Ledge to protect the drinking water supply from saltwater infiltration. So those are the ones that when we had kind of a general discussion on what are some larger scale things that it would be helpful to at least get in front of Congressman Moulton's office that could be beneficial. Those were the ones that immediately came forward. And certainly, of course, it's the board's prerogative on what you choose to have us submit. But we wanted to offer those ideas to you, and certainly any that you may have for discussion and consideration, even on a basic level this evening.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Mitch, really cover everything.
That's it for that. If you wanted to discuss that, I have no. My next item is separate, the warrant article. So that's
yeah.
that's what I have
So
at the moment.
for that, I'll definitely put a bigger discussion when all members are here for on the next meeting. But Selectwoman Donnelly, you want to say something now?
Yeah, I mean, those all sound like worthy and necessary projects. The only thing that I would add, or maybe offer as an alternative, is to the wastewater treatment plant upgrade is an evaluation of what it would take for us to connect to Gloucester's new wastewater treatment system. Rather than trying to fix our own wastewater treatment plant, would it make more sense for us to take advantage of the large project that Gloucester is undertaking and see if we can connect to their system? Because I don't know, I don't know what the outside range of treatment capacity is going to be, even if we do upgrade our plant. So I just offer that for consideration as an alternative.
Okay.
Thank you. And then, yeah, so, yep, Selectman Ilya, if you want to say something now too, go ahead.
Sure. I wholeheartedly support what Selectman Donnelly is suggesting with regard to joining in with Gloucester. It's been on my list since the start of my tenure. And I've spoken with individuals in Gloucester, including the mayor, about that. And certainly Senator Tar as well, I've spoken with, and Congressman Ferrante. They all know of our interest. They've all promised us that when it is appropriate for us to sit around the table, they will make sure that we in fact are included. So I see that as the way to correct the sewage treatment facility problems that we might have. There are lots of good topics there. The town administrator has mentioned any and all of them could be put forth, and we could be requesting funds for them because we need funds in all instances. I would include anything that might fall under the heading of rebuilding roads in town. My understanding is that we don't have adequate funds to do everything we want to do with the rebuilding, the repaving and rebuilding of many roads. And I think we ought to move or address that at the time when we in fact are improving some of the roads major to the town. So that's important to me. Certainly with regard to considerations of raising walls in areas around the harbor is of interest to me. The harbor was created by walls that were constructed from granite blocks. To me, it is a straightforward approach to continue to add to the heights, not with concrete, but with in fact granite blocks. Admittedly, that may be costly, but to maintain the image of the town, we should be trying to come up with approaches that in fact continue this image that we have inherited. So I see that, and that includes all around the main harbor as well as around White Wharf, Lumber Wharf. And certainly there are limits to it, but I'm not sure there are really that many limits. I think that we could protect Dock Square and T Wharf if he in fact included raising the walls that in fact create them. Anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mitch, you want to move on to your next item?
So, Mr. Chair, thank you. First pass at annual town meeting articles, just to make you aware of them. So we have all of our standard articles, all the numbered articles that are there every year, including the operating budget, the capital budget, the charitable accounts. We have 15 citizen petitions that have been submitted and certified by the clerk, which there's a significant range in what those are. We have 8 zoning articles. I spoke with the planning board chair at 3:30 today, and he said the planning board does intend to proceed with 8 out of the 9 that were not passed at the last town meeting. So basically J, their intention would be not to move forward on, but K through R would move forward. They've got a public hearing set for that. So I would just say, I put an asterisk on that one for the moment, and I'll come back to that. A placeholder for ad hoc water, an item for establishing an appropriate fund for the opioid abatement fund so that they can be added into a singular account and not have to be not lost at the end of a particular fiscal year. We have 4 articles from government and bylaw with edits to the code of bylaw changes. We have an item relating to legal hours of operation from the town clerk, which impacts town office hours, but particularly as it relates to elections and being able to address the need to be open on Saturdays. The clerk has forwarded some material for that. So that's it. But in reality, that's a lot. That's a lot. There are many weighty issues on that list. So I know there was some general chatter in the feedback that came out of the special town meeting in January about, when this does come back, what that looks like. And my comment to the board for your consideration would be that if everything as it stands right now moves forward, that you might wish to add on either a second day or a second evening. So April 1st is a Saturday. We would run out whatever appropriate time would be on Saturday, but that would be a planned either second day or second evening attached to it. I am concerned that with the amount and the complexity and scope of some of these articles, that trying to force all of them into one day might be quite a bit, and not give each article the time and attention that it needs. At that point, when the warrant is large like this, folks could sometimes have the tendency to try to just get through them. And we've seen that in other special town meetings here where things hadn't necessarily gone as anticipated, and concerns were raised. So I provide that to you folks to consider. Tonight is not by any means any type of final decision or setting anything this evening, but based on what we're seeing, just the sheer volume of things coming into this meeting, it's worth, number one, looking at for the non-petitioned items. Do you want to move all of them forward? And two, if you do, or even if you modify that, is it worth discussing in another meeting with the clerk and the moderator and the applicable boards, whether that Monday evening or the following Saturday gets added on to try to more evenly disperse things throughout.
All right, so I got a couple questions real quick. Has the auditorium been looked at for comfort of the residents by chance?
So
Assuming this will be a long meeting.
The annual town meeting in the decade that I've been here has always been held in the gym because that typically draws the largest crowd. And you run into the issue with the auditorium. Pre-COVID, the auditorium was the September town meeting because it had a smaller audience for it. We can accommodate more individuals in the gym, which is why the annual town meeting has, at least in the decade I've been here, been in the gym.
All right. And then planning board wise, do they have just one planned? Are they gonna, is a target for more public hearings? Because it needs to be.
Sure, they have a public hearing that they're in the process of preparing to advertise for March 9th at 6 p.m. in person at Town Hall for the articles that they're intending to move forward with. So they are intending to do another public hearing.
Any other like ways of advertising they're gonna try to get more people involved, or is this going about same as always?
So when I spoke with the chair today, I did say that, we'd be happy to push it out in the town social media accounts. We'd be happy to do a non-emergency email only code red message to folks to let people know. And aside from the required posting they have in the newspaper, and we'd have it on the website as well. So we would utilize the tools that are available to us. Just depends on, folks are available that evening. So it's, as of right now, they've indicated March 9th at 6 p.m. in conference room A at Town Hall.
And
to,
it's go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, it's my understanding that, say someone like me wanted to remove the questions make a motion to remove the questions from the meeting, these questions would be then postponed for 2 years, it wouldn't have another date, right? Is that correct?
So one of the things that we're trying to flesh out now is exactly what happens to these articles.
Okay,
Council offered some commentary at the last planning board meeting. But I have a written set of questions into her that I'm awaiting a reply on, and I want to just hold for the moment, if I could, on exactly saying what happens to that until I get it in writing. Because one of the other factors too here is that it's very likely we'll have two separate warrants. We'll likely have a special town meeting warrant for these carryover articles. But again, that's something that I'm waiting for final clarity on from council so we can appropriately prepare.
any other questions from the board? About town meeting?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I would
Yep.
say that if we do end up proceeding with all of these articles, that we do need 2 days. This is too much. It's too complicated. It's too much to ask of people to try to sit through, 10 hours of understanding all these complex choices that are going to be put in front of residents. So I agree that we need an extra date.
Yeah. Selectman Lawyer?
I would suggest that in the advertisements, there is pointed reference to the parts of the zoning bylaws that will in fact be up for consideration at town meeting. So that it is not just a program that is advertised as a planning board pre-session to what will take place at town meeting. You need to specifically reference the topics that in fact will come up. Number one. Number two, if there are going to be two warrants, why can't you separate the warrant for the planning board residuals to a separate day? Can that not be Monday then instead of being a part of Saturday?
So it was postponed specifically to the annual town meeting. So there'd have to be an action on each article to postpone it to the Monday specifically. If we wanted to try to really separate it, as of right now, it has to appear at least on the same day as the annual. How it actually appears, whether it's separate or within one, that's what we're awaiting guidance on.
Can you address part of it in the morning and part of it in the afternoon? In other words, the residual articles for the planning board, can they be discussed en masse in the morning or in the afternoon and or vice versa?
I would say that's for the moderator to decide, but like I said, as you suggested, Mitch, we should have a meeting with all of us in one meeting, whether it's in person in town hall or via Zoom. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I think to Selectman Leah's comment, I think some of that depends on if it's all in one warrant article, all on one warrant, all on one warrant versus separated. The moderator could seek leave from the body to take things out of order if it's all on one warrant, but if it's two separate warrants, I don't know how that would end up playing out.
Any other questions? If not, move on to general updates, Mitch, if any.
Nothing further at this time, Mr. Chair.
All right, any updates from the board? No.
Not really. Thank you.
All righty, we'll move on to public comment round 2, if any. And we'll have Chip go first. Get Chip unmuted there. All right, there you go, Chip, you're all set.
Thank you. In light of Mr. Vieira's comments, I will hold the history lesson because I think what happened is that I was saying jeopardy of imminent failure and he was saying in imminent failure, and I would agree with him that the wall is not falling down currently. I think the key word there is the difference between in and jeopardy of. However, Mr. Chair, I will cut to the chase. What I am asking for 2 specific reasons is that you put a discussion of the Long Beach seawall on your agenda in one of the near future meetings. I would suggest the next meeting for 2 specific reasons. One is that the Long Beach Infrastructure Committee presented to this board a number of years ago in 2018, a number of recommendations. And at that time, Select Person Donnelly was on the board for the first time and suggested that our design, I was a member of the committee, and that our design was possibly not appropriate, that people overseas have done a lot more research on design, and she was concerned that the design wasn't the best design for the seawall. There was, I believe, acceptance that the seawall needed to be replaced, however, that the design wasn't current. So at that time, the report was not voted on or accepted. And as members of the committee, we were kind of thinking that, I suppose they'll come back and ask us to do a little bit more research. However, nothing has happened since then in regards to that report or the design comment of having it looked at. So that's one item I'd like to have discussed. Two is the outstanding $2.6 million FEMA grant. You're headed to DPW, Mr. Parisi, in 2020, after a section of the wall and behind the wall had failed, requested FEMA to come out, take a look. They did, and they decided that there was a portion of the wall that should be rebuilt. They offered $2.6 million. However, at that time, they advised the town of Rockport, responsible for determining a course of action on how to proceed with the project and to work with FEMA to fulfill their EHP review requirements under NEPA. A lot of initials that I don't quite understand, but I know there were a couple things that we had to do as a town in order to get that grant from FEMA. And again, FEMA only issues grants when they deem it something as an emergency. So, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request that just a discussion on the seawall, not of the lease, not of what to do with Long Beach as a whole for generations to come, but just what to do with the seawall that does have issues that could possibly come down in the next major storm. What, you know, and these other outstanding issues that have happened that haven't been acted on. I think it's a healthy discussion. I think the discussion that the town should be aware of. I think it's a I absolutely believe it should be a priority that you as a group and a board take on. It's a huge issue, a huge money issue. And, you know, it needs action, you know, as you know, I was interested to hear Selectman Leland say, yeah, we should, you know, whatever we need to do to protect the harbor or whatever we need to do to protect the wharf, whether it's granite, shouldn't be concrete, it should, well, whatever we need to do to protect Long Beach should be being taken action as well. And even with, you know, the town administrator's lists of projects that need to get, you know, nothing was mentioned about the Long Beach seawall. It needs help. So I respectfully request that we hear an open discussion on how you guys think we should move forward with the seawall. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Chip. I can't promise you anything or commit to the next meeting, but I'll definitely take a look into it. Next up is Carol. Once we get her unmuted. There you go, Carol, you're all set.
Okay. First of all, and that means previous comments, you know, the problem with the selectmen, quite frankly, is that we need to take a long-range look at Long Beach. And actually, I'm urging you all to try to attend that town green meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. I think you should have gotten my forwarded email by now. We can't do things piecemeal. You can't just look at the seawall. You have to look at global warming. You have to look at what's gonna happen in the future, and that seawall's not gonna save houses, by the way. Not with ocean storm surges it's being myopic. You're just not looking at the whole picture. And it's very urgent that the selectmen need to look at the long range for Rockport. And I happen to agree with Herman that yes, we should be looking up at Dock Square and around there, because that's very dangerous to a lot of residents if that, you know, we have a catastrophe up there. You have to remember the seawall is only protecting seasonal houses. It's not, but we need to find out how to protect residents, year-round residents, and how to protect Thatcher Road. You know, okay, I'm sorry. That isn't actually, what I wanted to ask you about is this March 9th meeting. I'm trying to understand, are all of these articles to do with zoning that they're having that March 9th meeting about? I mean, I'm just unclear on what all these articles are.
They
Have
have
all these warrant articles.
they have their own warrant articles that have been going on for about 3 meetings now, I believe, or 2. And they're just, a lot of people aren't going to the public hearings, so all the questions are getting asked at town meetings. So the town meetings are running long, everyone's getting confused. So hopefully they're trying to have the public hearings and get enough of them out there so the residents can understand what they're trying to accomplish. So it's just on their articles that they're presenting at town meeting.
Which are all about zoning?
Yep, from the
Okay.
planning board.
All right, all right.
Thank you. Next up is Toby.
Thank you. Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. I was interested in your discussion about how you might consider squandering all of the untold millions that the federal government just might give us. Of course, you don't count the eggs before they've hatched, before you've actually got your paws on these sums. I felt that you, Ross Brackett, were quite right to put it off until the full board is there. Certainly all 5 of you should weigh in on this subject. And taking that consideration several steps further, I would think before you decided on behalf of 6,200 registered voters that you might at least hold some sort of a public meeting or hearing to discover what other people might like to do with the money, not just the 5 of you. You're already privileged to squander the Wuhan flu funds, $2 million plus. That's the way the government arranged it. It's not your fault, and it's not right, but that's the way it is. So this also sounds as though if the money is forthcoming, it's entirely your decision. Is that correct? And I have a further comment.
Mitch, you want to touch on that?
So
Exactly what
the money is not forthcoming. This is simply asking for a submission via Rep. Moulton's office. Nothing's been submitted yet. There's nothing forthcoming. There's nothing. What you heard this evening was literally the first time. We got an email last week from the congressman's office on it. First time something is coming forward with it. So there's nothing expected at the moment, nothing planned. This was just an introduction to some items flagged by DPW in this office.
I see. Entirely imaginary. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride. About the planning board's hearing, the planning board hopes that more people will go. They said not public officials. Of course, public officials have as much right to go as anyone else. And they hope to, in their minds, clear up people's objections. That sounds nice and expansive and generous. On the other hand, whatever they've got there is what's on the warrant, and they can't change it any more than you or I can. So that's what we're going forward with at the April 1st town meeting. If people attend the planning board's meeting, they may indeed be better informed, but no changes are going to be made in the articles at that time. And when it comes to the town meeting, both the planning board and ordinary citizens are under the same strictures. That is, only the things in bold and the strikeouts are up for grabs. Anything else there, you can't touch it, nor can they.
Is that up, Toby?
That's it. Thank.
All right, thank you. Selectwoman Donnelly, you had your comment
No,
on that?
I'll pass. Thank you.
Alrighty, and then I see Laura.
Hi, Laura Evans, 77 High Street. I was just thinking about what you said in the earlier public comment period about the assistant town administrator position. And I guess I don't understand, with all due respect, I don't understand the rationale of it. I know when Linda Saunders had the job, she went on extended leave for a year or a long time, and Mr. Vieira had to do her job and his job during that time. So it seems risky not to have the assistant town administrator. I mean, we're seeing that kind of play out at the library, where the assistant librarian has been filling in for the librarian who's been on extended medical leave. So I'm just trying to think of how to backstop Mr. Vieira, so that he has some support there. I just think it's important to have an assistant for such a critical position. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no plan. Have an assistant, but if anyone on the board ever wants to bring it forward, I'll gladly put it on the agenda for them. Selectwoman Donnelly?
Yeah, I'll only add that at the time, part of Mitch's responsibilities were as human resources director. We have a part-time human resources director now, which we're sharing with 2 other towns. We are putting into the budget, have put into the budget, filling that role as a full-time role. So having a full-time human resources administrator, which I think would take a huge load off of Mitch's plate, because he's filling much of that role now. And then this administrative services director, we upgraded the position to have a higher level of skills required to fill in some of what support Mitch needs. So we think that we're taking care of the needs as soon as we fill that ASM administrative services position and get a full-time HR director.
We also, if I could, Selectman Donnelly, just add to that, we also have the pending position of grants and special projects manager,
Right.
which we seek to fill once we fill the administrative services manager role.
All right, seeing no more public comment, and there is no executive session tonight, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yes.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
And roll call vote. Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.